Hold up, is it? Man, that'd take a while. And this is how you come down. Alright, leave the tripod alone. Alright? You're doing a good job laying there. The adventure puppy has made herself a... Don't bite that! She's on that polar bear rug that I acquired years ago. She's laying out. She's starting to bite it. No, can't bite it. Alright, we gotta switch up our audience here. Okay. You be good. That polar bear is probably worth about 20 grand or some damn thing, apparently. And the fur doesn't grow back once it falls out or gets pulled out. So, hopefully she can lay there and be a good puppy. Quick note, the DNA study, everybody seems to be pulling through and making it happen, which is a real cool thing. There's a lot of power here with this group, right? Nowadays, there's been a lot of dark, dirty, filthy people who have done a lot of dark, dirty things when it comes to this truth that is dominating this channel currently, and many others. And the DNA studies is one of the bigger items that they try to suppress and keep the truth from all of you. And got a few warriors out there, including Melba Ketchum, who are trying to bring that truth to you and fight back. Although the dark bastards have went way out of their way to annihilate her and shut her mouth, and many other people. Right down to the point of some of these people, most of these people, you know who they are because their faces have been little lens whores in the past, as they keep you guys going in circles and not finding out the true truth, what's going on outside my door, your doors, in the real world, right? And those are bullies. Those people represent the dark side. This group right here and many other groups, we represent the bright light, right? And we are winning. We're winning. And you credit to all of you. This is a very, very large group. And you can actually track traffic on various YouTube channels on a website. And sometimes out of curiosity, I'll go check out some of the more popular channels when it comes to this topic. And this channel here, you guys are the #1 followed and watched channel on social media when it comes to this topic. You're the number one. All you guys. I think there's something like 170 million views on this channel. 170 million. Crazy, right? There's channels out there who they talk about this channel and they have possibly twice as many subscribers numbers than this channel has, but this channel still remains to have the most views. Isn't that weird? I think it's probably because, like, if once you get some kind of celebrity status or something, people just hit the subscribe button just because it's a celebrity, or they're on this TV show before, or whatever. I think that must be what it is, because they're not getting the views. People aren't listening to them as much as this channel. This channel is all of you listening to all of you through me. This is shit to do with me. It's all you. This channel is an example of the power. It's an example of the bright light that you all own, the power that you all own, put in one place. It creates nothing but good. Nothing but good comes from this channel and all of you. That's it. Isn't it great? Anyway, I'm starting to babble a little bit. My brain, like I said, my brain goes a lot smoother than my mouth comboed up with my brain at times. So they're not the best partners at times. What was I saying? I didn't even know what I was saying. Damn it. I guess what I'm saying is this group represents the bright light. This group here, all of you represent the good guys, the good ladies, the good gals, the good people army. There's no way denying it. And once all of you decide to make something happen, it happens, right? And on the other side of the coin is, once all of you decide to stop something, you can stop something as well, because you're so large and powerful. So what we have done so far with all of you is we have basically stripped a lot of the attention from a lot of the dark side. All right, we've exposed the true character of a lot of the people in the dark side, which have been working against all of you when it comes to true knowledge in the real world. That is frickin' wicked. It's so cool to me. That's a real good thing. So a lot of you have created a lot of good through Melba's DNA study, donating there. I think I wouldn't be surprised if she reaches the goal tonight. And the majority of the comments are from all of you on this channel of yours here. All right. So let it be known, you guys, make sure you realize that a lot of good comes from all of you together as a group. A lot of good. It's very, very powerful. And the more you become aware of that and share that, the more good comes, right? We kick the dark pricks to the side, focus on the good, make it happen, and do not fear anyone. It's a great thing. So I'm sure I haven't spoken with Melba. I have emailed her in the past. I haven't spoken with her recently, but I'm quite sure she's very appreciative of all of you for what you are doing with the DNA study. So hopefully the dark side doesn't find an angle to disrupt or prevent something with this study and the information being shared with us. Hopefully it doesn't, but I'm sure if we are needed to do something, we will all be there to do it, right? And hopefully as well in the near future or the future, I'm a patient hunter. I will get a list of the names and a list of all the dark, dirty, filthy things they have done to people when it comes to suppressing the knowledge of this topic from you. And I am going to share with you the names and what they have done and who they did it to. It's just me. I know a lot of you might not agree with that, but oh well. That's just me. I've learned that it is the wrong thing to help the dark hide in the shadows, and what they do is the wrong thing. Now, let's get some voices heard. Some people patiently waiting to be heard for quite some time. Let's listen to this one. This is recent, I think. This phone is shutting off on its own and rebooting nonstop. Again, I don't know what's going on. Sarah seems to think somebody's messing with all my electronics. I don't know. Steve, I'm watching your videos for a while now and I like what you're doing. I also like and respect your "do I look like I give an F" attitude. I am a retired deputy sheriff, former Marine, and also served in the Army Reserve. I have a very similar attitude. I also ran a small mom and pop outfitting business here in Florida for 10 years. We provided hunts for wild hogs, turkeys, occasional deer hunts, gators, exotics, and bow fishing. I've seen some pretty gnarly swamp and done my share of stupid shit over the years. Man, that reminds me, I was down there hunting with a man you're probably familiar with, Eddie Salter, the Turkey Man, had a TV show. It was with him and some other guys, and we were traveling around spring season in South U.S., hunting, filming. I was cameraman predominantly most of the time, which I love to do. And we were in a place in Florida where these guys did outfits, and they had these huge frickin' platforms, like they were about, I don't know, 8 feet off the ground, with these tires that were massive, these buggies, and they would I guess they would drive these things around the swamps or whatever, around the Florida jungle, with hunters on top. Hunting that way is really weird for me to see, obviously, if you see where I hunt and carry on, but that comes to mind when you shared with me your hunting history. In late 2016, I was hog hunting in Central Florida in a pretty crappy location. I've been in there before, and it was always creepy because everything down here will try to eat you, and most times in that area, you can only see 5 or 10 feet in any direction. On several occasions, I had to use my bow to move water moccasins out of the way and find a path around a decent gator that wasn't interested in discussing who had the right of way. Ran into those water moccasins. They got some attitude, don't they? I made my way to a marshy clearing about a half mile into the swamp, excuse me, and found hog sign. I set my climber in a 25 to 30 foot pine tree. I was just high enough to see the clearing and had cover around me, about 12 feet off the ground. I was in the stand by early afternoon and intended to sit till dark when the hogs are most active in our area. About 5 p.m., I was watching several white-tailed does that were about 70 yards north of me. They were feeding contentedly toward me, and my hog hunt was rapidly turning into a deer hunt. Shortly before dark, the deer closed to 20 yards, and I was trying to pick out which doe to shank. It was dead quiet, almost no wind, and I heard the most god-awful groan from behind me. It was so freaking loud that I felt it in my chest. It was close, inside 70 yards. The deer broke camp like I've never seen deer run. No flagging, no bounding, just out. Straight line, ears pinned back, tails tucked, and about Mach 3. That pretty much told me that whatever I had just heard ate meat. Technically, in my current location, armed with only a longbow and 3 arrows, I felt like I was right in that meat group. Oof. I took a few seconds to get my thoughts and my shit together, but I finally decided to take the deer's hint and unass the area. When I got to the ground, it was dark. I took my day pack and my bow, leaving my stand and hangers on the tree. The groan was to my south and my truck was kind of northeast. I've been walking about 3 minutes and heard and felt the groaning sound behind me again. That's when shit got real for me. It was answered by an equally loud, higher-pitched whoop from in front of me. Whatever answered the groan was between me and the truck. At this point, I'm really not liking this being surrounded situation. North and south were covered by those things. East was super thick ground and west was lots of water but more open. I went for a swim, circling northwest to the truck. I'd rather take my chances with the gators and snakes. I got the truck pretty late and the moon was up high. I found an enormous handprint on my truck's topper. It was super greasy. I didn't really know what to think of it, so I just got the hell out of there and went home. I waited a couple days and went back to get the rest of my gear. This time I was full battle rattle. And I was going in prepared. Short barrel 12 gauge, 40 cal Glock with extra mags. On the way into the swamp I found big deep tracks. They looked almost flat-footed. The tracks had almost no heel strike and pushed heavy off the ball. The stride was easily 45 to 50 inches and walking in line, with heel to toe but full strides. When I got to my stand, I found 2 sets of tracks that met up about 10 yards from my stand. All the tracks were either paralleling hog sign or in hog sign. I got my shit together and left. I drove out a different way looking along the swamp for more tracks and found them. I also found a mangled pig. The pig looked to have been 40 pounds-ish. It wasn't shot. Its neck had been twisted around a couple of times. Okay, I know hogs and you know hogs. Could you imagine twisting the head of a hog around? Said no human ever. The legs were obviously pulled off, not cut or chewed. The hide appeared to be torn open, not cut. It had been pulled apart and eaten. I've attached photos of the area, tracks, handprint, and the hog kill. I didn't see them face to face, I don't care if I ever do. That's their swamp. It's almost 7,000 acres without even a fire break in it. 2.5 miles wide and over 3 miles long. I know what was going on out there and what I was in the swamp with. There is no way any human came 2 miles through that swamp to get behind me. No one came in behind me unless he or she was twice my 300-pound body weight and had 16-inch long, 6-inch wide, flat, bare feet. I didn't leave anything in there, and I need to go back. I didn't leave anything in there I need to go back and get. I haven't been back in there since. I've told a few close friends, but this is the only public statement I've made. I know the tracks don't do much for you, but I've attached photos from my incident. You can use my story, photos, and my name if that can be of help to you. Keep up the good work. Jack Dorton. Jack, appreciate that share. I'm just looking at your photos. Pretty nasty, isn't it? Wow. Incredible. That's been damn unnerving. So you knew what it was. I wonder if you, I don't think you mentioned it, but I wonder what kind of knowledge you had on this topic beforehand. Living in Florida, being rural deputy sheriff, I'm sure you probably heard a bunch of first-hand reports or experiences anyway. I wonder how many people you know have had the same experience. Anyway, another member of the Club of No Return. Appreciate you, man. Be safe out there. And make sure you email us back and share with us more knowledge. If you come across it, it's going to help somebody. And make sure you speak openly about this topic because it is the truth, right? There's no sense in hiding truth. I don't see any benefit in hiding truth ever, period, myself. You know what I mean? It's absolutely pouring rain out there. Apparently 200 millimeters is coming today, tomorrow, the next day, so fishing's done. I was going to make Sarah get up at 4:45 this morning and go fishing again, but the rain screwed it. The river's flooding. But anyway, more voices, here we go. Let's get them heard. Get some photos here I'll share. If I remember to share those photos you sent when I get to the editing part of my morning. Now I'm going to get down to the bottom of the list on this phone and try to get as many of these read right off the bat and get caught up before I save more. It bothers me that so many people haven't been heard yet. Gary Nolan, a professional Stanford University School of Medicine, did a study on people who had UFO encounters. He found that people who had experienced mind speak all had one thing in common. These people have a denser area in the basal ganglia and were found to be higher functioning individuals. He then looked at a broader section of the population and found that 1 in 200 people have this. I had an encounter in 1995. Smell, screamed at, tree ripped apart, but no mind speak. I guess that means I'm a lower functioning individual. Thanks for all you do, Don Olson. Okay, Don, thanks for sharing that name. Gary Nolan, N-O-L-A-N, professor at Stanford University. That's interesting. I haven't had mind speak, so I guess I'm right there with you. But we have a lot of other qualities that many probably don't, right? Thanks for giving the heads up. We'll see how our sleuths make out on that name and topic, possibly. Hey! Hey, quit it. Well, she's doing her job, isn't she? This one's titled, Followed by Something While Walking to My Tree Stand. Hi Steve, thank you so much for what you're doing with this channel. Sorry for the length. Hopefully my grammar's okay and you can use my name. I've been in the woods of upstate New York from age 10. I'm now 53. Hunting and fishing, not to mention hiking and camping, wilderness survival, with the Boy Scouts in the middle of nowhere, miles from a road or town. I started hunting with my dad and his co-workers and their kids. Until us kids were of legal age to hunt, we were used to drive deer to the hunters in a long walking line. I've seen and heard almost every animal in these woods, deer, black bear, bobcats, etc., including the animals the state biologists say we don't have, wolves and cougars. I wonder why they do that. Aren't they goofy bastards? The only thing that ever scared any of us was always the damn partridge that would take off right in front of your face in the dark as you're walking to your stand. Those damn things would make your heart stop for a second. No doubt. Back in 2009, I was given rights to hunt a co-worker's land, 150 acres, that back up to the Adirondack Mountains. In northeastern New York, its boundaries were roughly cover about 5,000 square miles. There are some vacation towns around the lakes and some county roads, but it is mostly untouched. My coworker walked the property with me in the daylight a week before opening day when I put up my tree stand. This place is mature large pines and is dark even during midday. I arrived opening day at 5 a.m. This place was pitch black. No moon or stars. I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. I started walking in by flashlight and started hearing footsteps in the leaves off to my right. I turned and looked with my light and I couldn't see anything. I figured I was just hearing my own echo. So I started again, and the footsteps started again, bipedal. I walked a little more, then stopped without putting my foot down. Then I heard 3 more steps. The hair on my neck went up and the feeling of being watched. It wasn't a bear or any other 4-legged animal. So I unshouldered my 7mm mag and chambered around, holding my rifle waist high, and faced the location of the noise. I waited, but no more sound. When I started walking again, and it started again, but this time it was now on both sides. I yelled, "Get out of here," but it didn't stop. I got to my tree stand quickly, climbed the 20-foot in seconds because the footsteps continued and were getting closer. I looked at my light and again nothing. The woods were dead quiet. No animal or birds all day, not even those annoying red squirrels. I felt watched. After listening to your channel, I now think I know what was on both sides of me. It either had roared or screamed at me that day. If either had roared or screamed at me that day would have gone bad in a heartbeat. I honestly don't know what I would have done, shoot or shit. I still hunt, but I'm much more alert after listening to your channel. Steve, thanks again for what you're doing. Dave, upstate New York. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate you, man. I've been upstate New York, Skinny Atlas, a few other places, Lake George. Now, thank God you're more alert due to this channel. That's the whole point of this channel. Bringing knowledge to people so they can be more alert and aware of what's really going on in the real world. I'm glad you still hunt. You didn't quit. Another one. Steve, my friend and brother, though we've never met. I have a 2-part story. My first strange experience happened on a very snowy winter's day in 1976. I was 15, walking through the woods in central Indiana. I made it approximately 3 miles in a foot of snow. I know that doesn't compare to the snows you Canadians get. I have my 2-year-old... Quit it, it's rain. Hey! It's water dripping. Ruby, quit it. It's water dripping, you dork. I had my 2-year-old fierce 35-pound mutt with me. I say fierce due to 2 ER bills I ended up paying because she chewed up 2 brats cutting through my yard. Oh no, she chewed them up pretty good. I had all of her shots and felt slightly guilty since I was friends with her parents. Okay, so these woods were sort of a legend due to its being haunted. I had my Marlin 22 with the 10-round mag. Suddenly, a limb snapped behind me. I was 6 foot, 200 pounds, solid young man. Spun around, looking, and saw nothing. Then my dog started growling. Though these trees were old growth, there was no ground clutter. I took a couple steps when another limb snapped. My dog went from growling to whimpering. She started looking up into the trees. I looked up due to the falling snow and saw nothing. I walked another half a mile when I came across an old burned out cabin. The hearth was about all that was left, and there were a couple of 2-foot across red oaks growing in the middle of where the main structure would have been. Then I swore I heard a footstep behind me in the snow. I walked to where I expected to see some tracks behind a larger tree. when a limb snapped behind me. My dog now wanted me to pick her up. I placed her inside my bib coveralls and zipped her up in my parka. I went back to that woods the next spring. My dog got to the edge of the woods and froze. It wouldn't follow me even a foot into it. I got a creepy feeling and backed out. I got 100 yards back away and said, God, if I should enter these woods again, let a hawk fly from those woods to the large oak in the middle of the pasture several hundred yards away. God is my witness. A hawk immediately swooped from the edge of the woods to that oak tree. Needless to say, I never went back. I add this to indicate something that woods. He said writing that woods was a typo. Something that woods. I'd been at my girlfriend's and her mother offered to drive me home. As we drove through the edge of the woods, her mother said, I always feel like something evil's in that woods. You're the second person I've told this to. My son was the first. P.S. I bought a woods of my own approximately 20 miles from the woods. If you followed the river, you could easily walk that distance in the daylight. One night, sitting alone in my kitchen in the dark, drinking coffee, I love sitting in the dark drinking anything, all of a sudden my two different dogs went crazy when someone or something tapped my door leading out to my wraparound porch. I grabbed a pistol and went outside. I was thinking it was some delinquent kids, but I thought no brat kids would be out in 40-degree weather in a heavy rain. It happened again and I called the sheriff. Two deputies were there quickly. I explained what happened and they pointed to a very large muddy handprint on the lower glass of the storm door. The deputies left after walking around my barn and house. After they left, this still sounds crazy, I heard, would you like to meet me? I quickly said, hell no. I never had another issue, and nor did I hear anything again. You're a hero, Steve. Thank you for allowing me to share this. There is a blank blank report around 8 miles from where I live from 1979. My puzzle started making sense after following you. Thanks a million, Steve. I'm praying a hedge of protection around you and your property and loved ones, two-legged and four-legged alike. God bless and thank you again. I'll share one more incident another time. Sorry for the long text. No apologies needed. Thanks for sending that, man. Appreciate it. The handprint's creepy. Lots of people are reporting them for a long time. And one thing, I read an email, I gotta go back and read it again, from somebody who's very knowledgeable, explaining that they saw some prints in the forest where the prints were, you could actually tell there was a greasy substance from the footprints and they were picking up the pine needles off of the ground as they went. So what does that tell me? The greasy factor is a pattern. The greasy factor has been reported with fingerprints on windows, on many things. That's a pattern. The greasy characteristic, whatever you want to call it. Our brain's farting. But anyway, but when I heard, it's the first time I've heard it, I believe it's the first time I heard it, is about the footprints picking up the pine needles off the ground, and it was like a sticky substance was left somewhat, a little bit of it, hints of it. Anyways, does that not tell you that they just got here? Right? You can't go through walking through the forest all your life and then all of a sudden your feet start picking up pine needles. Right? So, where'd they come from? Where'd that being originate from before it started making its brand new footprints in the forest with pine needles sticking to the bottom of his feet? You know what I mean? What's the greasy substance? What is it? Now, moving along, more food for thought, right? This is titled The Dog Thing, about the dog thing. I'm in southwestern Pennsylvania, and I've been dealing with these giant hairy people for several years now. Hunting and fishing have been my life since I was just a little kid, and I almost gave it up. I still go out in the dark, but it is tough. This channel definitely helps with that, so I'd like to offer up some information to help someone else. Excuse me. They were coming to the house nightly. I can't explain how disturbing or traumatic it is to feel helpless and defenseless with young children to protect. Staying awake all night, every night, shotgun loaded with slugs. That would suck. I think everyone should know that sometimes my two dogs would seem nervous, but not always. One morning I let my lab out. He goes running around the yard, and one of them leans out from behind a tree, 15 to 20 yards from me, and the dog is about 5 yards behind it. I was calling the dog in a panic. He thinks that I'm playing with him, probably around 2 years old at the time, running back and forth, coming within a few feet of it several times. The thing never moved. It just stood there watching me. I got the dog in the house and didn't go back till it was actual daylight out. Another time I have my lab and my Rottweiler outside, and one starts ripping a tree apart up the hill. Both dogs look towards the... What? Another time I have my lab and my Rottweiler outside, and one starts ripping a tree apart up the hill. Okay, you're meaning the Sasquatch was. I thought you meant your dogs. Both dogs look toward the noise, but just went right back to what they're doing. I can see it moving around. The dogs acted like they didn't notice it. Sometimes I can smell them. The dogs go right outside like normal. There have been a few times they turn around to come right back in though, acting nervous, pissing in the house. I don't think a dog is going to know 100% of the time, but I don't think it's a bad idea having the extra senses. Also, no elk around here. From what I understand, these people are in a lot more places than elk. I don't understand why these people and elk would go hand in hand. I'd really like to share everything that happened, the things I've noticed and what I've learned. I'm not sure how to possibly go about doing that. The topic of these people is only a tiny fraction of a much larger picture. I agree. It would take years for me to put it all together. I know I can't be the only one that sees. Dave Plattis and Scott Carpenter mixing fact with fiction, potentially causing more harm than good. It's an interesting statement. Tightening the narrative noose the powers that be have us all dangling from. Interesting email. I think the elk mentioning that elk and these beings go hand in hand doesn't mean that you need elk to have a Sasquatch sighting. That's obvious from the tens of thousands of people that have written in here, right? It just means that, especially here in British Columbia and Idaho, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, all the common western states and provinces that have elk, it seems that there is a very strong pattern of elk hunters running into these beings while hunting elk. Dave Plattis has also talked to people who have seen these beings hunting elk, running with elk. We've had elk stolen from hunters in camps in Alberta, probably BC too, that I know of. Elk hunters, elk and Sasquatch sightings is just another pattern that we have. Obviously these things are everywhere. Whenever they want to be, however they do it, they just seem to show up. They show up where people have lived for generations, never even seen a hint of them, and all of a sudden there they are. Tormenting the shit out of the families, right? It's frustrating, and I agree there's a much bigger piece of the puzzle. And your opinion on Dave and Scott is going to be your own opinion. Everybody's entitled to one, right? And on the dog mention thing, I think everybody can agree on that one too. Obviously these beings, they know how to manipulate the senses, right? And I wonder if possibly when they cut loose with maybe a darker side of their character, maybe that's when they can't control their presence or their energy from canines. Maybe, I don't know. Haven't a clue. I don't have any way of doing a study myself, right? But you just, with your experiences shared, you just proved that they can conceal themselves from the canines when they want. Or maybe some of them can. I haven't a clue. But we'll look for that pattern. We'll see if that's a pattern as well, right? Patterns in our existence is huge when it comes to basically every topic out there, not just this one. You need the patterns, right? You gotta pay attention to patterns. Now, this one's titled Urgent, Dr. Melba Ketchum. All right, let's see what we got. Excuse me. Hi, Steve. Appreciate your time and effort on this topic. This email is mainly in regards to Dr. Ketchum is wanting to do a DNA study on the dog man. She's short on funding and is requesting donations so she can proceed. If she doesn't have donations soon, she'll put it on the back burner for now. I just wanted to bring this project to your attention and see if you would consider sharing with the round table. This may help some in the audience. The Sasquatch have been around us in forest the whole time, even in the daytime. They could have us at any time. There's no reason to be afraid, just be respectful and aware and watch your back. There's no sound when they run through the bushes, tree branches, or fallen leaves, only when they step on a stick. The exception is unless they want to be noisy and scare you away. Just expect them to be in the forest, or even a patch of woods. That way you're not stunned or act afraid when you see one. You get your mind right, it will happen when you least expect it. They're very bold and comfortable moving around in our parks and the edges of our neighborhoods in Texas and Louisiana, including the suburbs of major cities. Do not go looking for them. You'll be in over your head and they will follow you home. Tagging is real. Best regards to you and the people who know. Ken Harmon. Okay, Ken, there's a slight summary of points to make when it comes to these beings and seeing and existing. And it's obvious that we've already shared Melba's study, which is a good thing. We're killing it. Hopefully by the end of today, the funds will be secured and the study will be completed and we will be delivered those missing puzzle pieces. So it's titled, no title. Hello Steve. I'm using a friend's email address, but please don't share his or my name. I've included my initials you may use. If at all possible, please let me know when you upload this as to I like your review. I think we shared this. Yeah, we read this one. Why isn't it saved as red? I put red beside every single one of them. Weird. This phone's a son of a gun, I'll tell you what. Steve, your channels help me with more information that I managed to string together. I've been chasing stories of Yeti ever since the movie of the Abominable Snowman came out in the 50s. I'm now 79 years young. I looked everywhere for information back then and it was hard to come by. And some of it was from a questionable source. It still is. My grandfather was half Irish and half Mingo. Mangos were a clan of Iraqi that were exiled because it was taught that they were disloyal to the nation. He would tell me he was going to give me to the boogeyman. One day I saw the garbage men working. I asked my grandfather if they were the boogeymen. He told me they weren't, but that the boogeyman lived in the woods and would take little boys that were caught in the woods after dark. My wife, who is a retired policewoman and 9/11 operator, told me about a run-in with a skunk ape she had while camping in Florida. She said it was very scary, but no harm came from it. The people she was camping with did not believe her until the next morning, when they saw the scrape marks on top of her tent. We were both from southwest Pennsylvania. I took her to a park that she had never been to. We got there after the official closing for the day. It was in the Laurel Highlands and was called Fort Necessity, a place where George Washington was forced to fight during the French and Indian War. We were walking through the woods on a path that leads to the old fort. The path was only 200 yards long. We were about halfway to the fort when we started hearing tree knocks, about 200 to 300 yards to the south of us. By now we were aware of tree knocks and had to decide whether to go on to the fort or leave the woods. We went on to the fort that was out of the woods. The knocks only lasted for about 2 or 3 minutes. After we left the fort and walked back through the woods, we didn't hear any more knocks. End of email. Well, lucky you didn't have to have a face-to-face with them, right? Thanks for your email, man, especially sending location. That's huge for a lot of people, potentially. Alright, here's another one titled 6 Years Old. Hi Steve, thanks for your efforts. I like the 1 hour segments the way you do it now. When I was 6 years old, we were visiting family in Tennessee, and we were 10 or so miles off the paved roads, out where my uncle had his still. Sounds familiar. On his family's farm out near the barn, sitting on chairs in a big circle playing hillbilly music with spoons, washboard, washtub, bass, fiddle, banjo, harmonica, and jaw harp. I saw across the pasture at the edge of the woods a large, hairy man squatting and watching us. I asked who it was, and he was told he was the old mountain hillbilly and he comes down to listen to the music. I'm now 50 years later know it was a Bigfoot. I've never told anyone about it because I figured it was normal in Tennessee. We don't have those in Wisconsin. I told the relatives that day. I haven't thought about it since then, but listening to you brought that old memory back. Thanks for that. My name is Craig Wire. Please keep doing what you do. Well, I'm going to keep doing it, my man. I'm going to keep doing it. And you keep sharing the truth when you can, too, all right? And you come across any new truth, get it to us. Get it to us. What's this one? Excuse me. This is titled Wood for the Fire. Steve, thanks for the work you're doing. It is especially inspiring for me to see you in the deep woods reading emails from friends regarding the subject matter. It demonstrates a lot of courage on your part. My name is Tom and I live in the Central American rainforest. I lived in the Central American rainforest for years, and you better buckle up if you want to stay alive. I was under the mentorship of a shaman, and he was tough as nails and had the ability to mind speak. Him and I would communicate in this manner often. With his help, I had become conscious of that is what is called God. I feel strongly that there is something that needs to be priority in people's lives. Then things become clear about what is going on here. There's so much more I can say about this, but to keep my story short, I'll stop now. If you want more, let me know. I am from Toronto, Canada. And I was a complete skeptic about Sabe stories until I had moved to the easternmost edge of Toronto, close to Lake Ontario. While living there, I became interested in your stories about the Sabe people. I gathered a lot of information from those stories and began to notice something strange when visiting this nature trail near my residence, which ended at the shoreline of Lake Ontario. This time I went down the trail. I started to feel very uncomfortable, almost sick. So I turned around and went back home. After a few more attempts, I continued to hike despite the way I was feeling. I started to notice more and more things related to your stories. So, on July 24th, 21, I went to the trail with the intention of finding out if there were any Sabe in that park, which was just off a major roadway close to homes, gas stations, restaurants, etc. It was 9:30 a.m. when I went through the gate and onto the trail, and just as before, it was dead silent. There was a deep ravine with a creek at the bottom and a forest of trees, perfect for all kinds of animals, birds, insects, but not a sound. I felt that uneasiness. But despite that, I said in my head, what are the chances of you beings living in this place? Just then, a dog started barking, and I turned my head to look, and from behind some trees and bushes, a rock came flying at me. It was like slow motion. I watched the rock, while not moving, as it flew towards me and hit the ground rolling, stopping at the tip of my right shoe. I was unafraid. I got my answer. I continued walking, noticing the broken trees. They don't just live in the deep woods. They're right under our noses. Within 15 minutes of my encounter, a helicopter flew over the area low and slow. With what I know, people should be careful and not reckless. Don't provoke and don't be provoked. This earth is only a stepping stone. The Buddhists say that earth is in a hell realm. It is meant to be used for growth so that we can move forward and beyond this place. Finally, I want to say that there are things that go bump in the night. A guy hired a witch to conjure a demon to attack me. Another story. Therefore, be careful. Thanks again, Steve. I wish you and all growth and understanding. Understanding yourself is the most important thing. Of this, I am certain. And I'm certain of that too, man. I'm absolutely certain of that. I've always said it. We've got to figure out our own shit before we can understand much more. For sure. Alright, here's another one. Here's my stepson's encounter and my mountain lion encounter. Hello again, Steve. This is Corey. Shellas. Hope all's well. My lion encounter took place on top of Green Mountain, which is right next to Saddle Mountain, in Clatsop County around Astoria, Oregon. It was elk bow season 2020. I stuck a beautiful black allard for a while. 5x5 bull elk from 25 yards away. Okay, there's some typos in there, I'm certain. It was around 4 hours later when we arrived back. It was midnight. I was showing my buddy where I'd last seen the bull. I pointed my flashlight up to my right. He said he either went this way or that way. As my light lit up the timber to my left, I noticed a single eye shine. When I noticed it, I chuckled and said, "Oh, there he is right there." And then all of a sudden its head turned and now there was two eyes. Then I said, "Nope, it's alive, whatever it is." It was about 30 yards or less up the hill directly in front of me. As my eye adjusted to the light and my eyes focused to see what it was, I yelled, "Rajarshi, a cat." That's a big effing cat. I stood there with my light on it as Wayne stepped next to my and drew his Kimber 45 up on it. The lion walked to the left 6 to 7 feet, turned around and started walking right. He walked behind a tree. At that time I focused my light to the other side of the tree, waiting for it to walk out, but it never did. He turned around again, behind the tree, and started walking left again. He walked about the same distance, then stopped, turned, and stepped up onto the old growth log between us, just with his two front paws. It was maybe 3 to 5 seconds he stood and stared at us. Then he stepped back down, turned to our left, and continued the way he was going when I first saw him. In the direction we had to look for my new elk in. That was all we saw of him. After that, we continued to look for my elk for another hour. Never did find my bull, till 3 months later I walked up there with my German Shepherd. Spent 15 minutes looking and found him. Walked maybe 10 yards from him that night. The wind and the rain was too much to see or smell him. On to my stepson's encounter. This took place up on Nikolai Mountain, about 9 miles up the main line, off the OHV trail at my grandfather's memorial bench. Him and a few friends were down there having a fire. When off in the distance they heard a howling / screaming. It was a ways off, so they didn't think much of it at the time. It wasn't long he told me that next thing they know it was right on top of them. It was freaking them out. They started walking back to the cars, and as they walked they told me there must have been 3 of them all around them. They were howling / screaming at them all the way to the car. They didn't stop until they drove off. I've been up there since a few times, nothing yet. Attached will be a picture of my grandpa's bench and my elk after I found it. That sucks you lost the elk, man. That's a cool bench. It's a great memorial bench. Sucks about the elk. You always go back. I'll look for a couple days straight, no matter what, when that unfortunate episode goes down. What do we got here? A whole bunch of pictures from a video we had submitted before. Excuse me. I'm going to show us one more and get my ass in gear. Got stuff to do. Game Warden video enhancements. Steve, these are enhanced stills from the video taken by a former game warden in a river as posted by you on your channel. This video is remarkable. I thought it deserved a closer look. If I had the original file, I could do a better job, but the size and proportions of the subject in the film say quite a bit. It seems to be absolutely authentic in my opinion. All the best to you, Steve. All the best to you. Steve, these are enhanced stills from the video taken for... Oh, then at the top of your email is printed again. Here's the stills. Okay, appreciate it, man. I'll post them up for all to see. And it is definitely in the proportions that are described, right? Wide, no neck, longer than normal arms. I'll post them all up. Thanks for the effort. Thanks for pointing that out and sharing it with us. Okay, one more. How big is this one? Not too long. One more. Appreciate it again, man. Absolutely appreciate that effort. It was titled Mainer, M-A-I-N-E-R. Too many encounters to post that have not gave 100% visual confirmation. Everything from black flashes running by to following just out of sight, walking my pace and stopping when I stop from either right behind me or to the side of me. In many different woods I've entered. I'll simplify and tell a few of them to give examples. Walking along in a piece of woods in pitch black with either a headlamp in red light setting. Walking along in the mountain in the morning, 2 hours before legal shooting time. All is good, and then bam. I get hit with discomfort and anxiety, feeling like something's going to jump out at any second, but nothing comes out. Instead, you hear something walking right beside you, but don't want to look because you're already jumpy. So your senses heighten to the point you have already made the distance and location of this thing and have already noticed it staying a certain distance from you, and you can just make out it matching your steps and pace. As long as it stays its pace with mine and isn't getting closer, you take the slightest comfort in that fact that you're aware and ready enough that if it rushes you, you already know its direction and distance. So ideally, you make the decision that if it changes in any way, you're ready to shoot or dodge and shoot. It happens all the time. And after a while, you get a game plan in place and you always pay attention. I rarely hunt with a rifle. I use a shotgun for that reason specifically. I load in always a certain pattern. Buckshot, slug, buckshot. When deer hunting, I do not shoot deer with buckshot. I use that as a precaution load. If bird hunting, I use a pattern of buckshot, bird shot, buckshot. I don't shoot birds with buckshot. Example 2. I've walked through the woods to a location I liked midday to sit for deer with no problems. I sit down with a tree rock or stump on my back. I sit there for a few hours without any movement and just watching the little birds and squirrels scrummaging through the leaves or scurrying in the trees. And the day is nearly over and it's about an hour left of light and silent. Nothing is moving and no noises. Then, out of my peripheral vision, I see a dark spot that I don't recall being there all afternoon. So, ever so slowly, I turn my head just to see a flash of a black bolt. Here we go, Bobby. Sorry. Then, out of my peripheral vision, I see a dark spot that I don't recall being there all afternoon. So, ever so slowly, I turn my head just to see a flash of black bolt off. Sometimes it crashes and makes noises. Other times it slowly moves back out of sight silently before I get my head turned in the direction. But then it's dark out and I have to walk back out of the woods, and then it starts again. As I walk out, I feel the presence and feeling of being watched. Not always pressure and anxiety. As I walk out, I know it's there. And walk out showing nothing but paying attention to everything, and I make out the footsteps to one side, matching my pace and almost matching every step. Sometimes another one comes in on the other side doing the same all the way out. Only difference is the only difference is once every so far they step on a stick or twig. That's how it gives itself away. It happens a lot. After many of these encounters, after many of these encounters, it got so, after a little bit of walking, it wasn't bothering me. A little bit of punctuation missing. Sorry, I'm struggling a little bit, but I'll get through it. I got my courage up a few times and did something many would never do. I messed with them by stopping and just staring at the ground, and then start walking again. Then I would stop again and stare at the ground. Then I would start to take a step. Then I would jump in one of their directions. Once in a while it would actually be hilarious. They would either get jumped themselves, or you would hear a stutter step and a gasp or a branch break off of a tree. Once it actually made one bolt off. Other times it didn't work out so well and got no reaction from them, but hit with strong anxiety and gut-wrenching discomfort. In my head, I basically would be like, okay, And it would be like when a cop tells you to put your hands up, just like cop shows. That emotion would present, and I would just walk out of the woods feeling discomfort the whole way. Like I said, many encounters. All right, there you go. Many encounters. It's funny how some people have many and some people have one. And there's lots of patterns that you just shared that we've become aware of with many past emails. Now I better get going. The dog's, she's done a pretty good job. She's up and getting antsy now. She's been laying here the whole time, and she's not really stoked on it. She's young, has got a bunch of energy, right, puppy? Okay. You want to get out of here? And it's Easter weekend. I miss being in the southern states during Easter, during turkey season. Man, would be some huge, delicious spreads of food down there. That southern food is so good. I miss it. Anyway, I hope everybody's having a great Easter weekend out there. Be safe, speak the truth, be brave. And what do we have? We're going to have an elk rib roll for our Easter dinner. We took out half a turkey too, but we're going to have elk rib roll. I showed everybody how to do that in a video. When that elk harvested this year, I actually filled the entire side of the rib cage off all in one piece, and then you bring it home. And what you do is you roll it up with stuffing, a little bit of game sausage, meat, spices, vegetables, whatever you got. You roll it all the way up into a roast and put it in the oven, and you roast all day long. It is so good. It is absolutely ridiculous. So we're gonna have a delicious meal, game meal, healthy meal for our Easter dinner of elk rib roll. Anyway, I'll be back shortly. And again, I'll put the link to Melba's DNA study in the description below, and we'll see if we can smash that goal out of the park today and move forward, get some answers made for us, all right? We'll be back shortly.